Hello, I'm Jodie Rosé-O'Brien, part of the AWI Extension South Australia team. In this case study, we're going to hear from Darren Eatts from Wambi on his experiences with eID implementation. This case study was recorded in April 2025 at the eID workshop for profitability and productivity at Wunkar.
Darren, you just tell us a bit about your property.
We farm at Wambi, about 40, 50 k's south of here. Yes, we grow cereal crops as well as running livestock. So we just run a wheat cereal system with medic pastures in our break crop year, which is where our livestock comes in to graze those. So that works as quite a solid system. Yeah, we have one employee and a few family members, my kids and partner that help out during holidays and whatnot with a lot of the stock work, which is helpful.
Fantastic. How many breeding ewes have you got? Sorry, Darren?
We run 1,300 self-replacing 1,300 merino ewes. We make the majority of those, or about 2/3 of them, to merinos to replace the flock, and the remainers we make to border lessers to breed a first cross ewe lamb, which we send down to our other property at Strathowen, which my brother runs there, to keep his flock of those first cross ewes replaced there. So that works quite a good system.
Okay, we'll move on to your data collection. So how did you become interested in collecting some eID data? Or data with eID, sorry.
I guess I first became interested in a bit. We were started preg scanning sheep and then also following up, picking out dry ewes at marking that hadn't reared a lamb, and we were finding at the end of each of those days' works, we were tagging sheep to identify which ones had come in dry, so we could keep track of those to cull out at a later date. And that became a bit time consuming, and then we're getting quite a number of different tags, and we're using some of those little round discs that you thread over the old leader tags. And it became confusing coming down the race with lots of different tags and more work and whatnot. So obviously eID was sort of becoming a bit more prevalent back at that time. So it was 2019 we started, we put our first tags in. So that was sort of where we began with it, and just started, as people probably have last year, just tagged our ewe lambs at marking, thinking that that'll just be something that we're going to have to do and it's going to come. So the sooner we start, the sooner that comes through our system. And that was, probably my initial start with that. And then we just moved on from there,
Did you collect any other data other than preg scanning data?
Once we had those tags in the lambs, then we also looked at buying a handler or a drafter system, predominantly for just weighing lambs initially. And then we put some eID, a panel reader on that, which we could read the tags. So once we sort of had the equipment that we're able to utilise the eID system, we then tagged some other age groups, our hoggets at the time, and then a couple of older age group ewes. So we had sort of a bigger group of animals within the property that we could assign data to or gather data from, rather. Then we moved into using it for classing hoggets, which makes that job really easy to put those into several different lines of classes and record that easily. And then the preg scan data was also useful, or not useful at that stage. We just sort of kept all of those files just in case we had a mix-up during the post-scanning. That was where we sort of began in that respect,
Thank you. So how are you collecting your data?
A few different ways. To begin with, as I said, we bought the handler, which had just a panel reader, and we didn't have a stick reader at that stage. So, and even now, if we're doing large mob-based records, we just put the panel reader over the top of the drafting race there, and you can run the sheep will run through underneath that as fast as they can, and that will record just only the eID of each of those sheep that have run past there in that group or mob. So that's one way for doing sort of bigger bulk lots. The other way, preg scan data now, Peter Jacket, I think here somewhere, has the equipment on his scanning crate now, so that's really good. And as they go through and Peter scans them, that's recorded onto his indicator screen, and then we just download that at the end of the day, so that's good. And then, other than that, just a stick reader, looks like that anything done in a race, generally we use that for, hogget classing, any dry use, random things we're picking out, we use that for because it's obviously portable and easy.
I love the tape on the end. It looks a bit like a few other stick readers I've seen around the place.
That holds a bit of wire on the bottom that hooks it on the fence.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like falling apart. No, right. So when did you purchase? You sort of done it in stages.
Yeah,
when did you
in
purchase it?
stages and possibly not in the right order, I'm not sure. But yeah, we started for the eID side of things. We started with the panel reader because that sort of went with the sheep handler to auto draft it to be able to draft. So where we worked without the stick reader for a couple of years. So yeah, back in 2019 we bought the handler and the panel reader, and then about 2021 or two we bought the stick reader, which we probably should have done years earlier. So yeah.
So how are you managing your data?
I've just sort of been doing that all myself with a little bit of help from a few people along the way. Yeah, so basically if we get, yes, that's our handler that we use there. And so from that panel reader, which we saw earlier on the drafting race there, we just can download a file out of that, and then we just have to tidy up a bit, and then we put, so all that's there is an eID and then the mob number 2 there. If that's the mob we've run through, and we can load that into either an indicator or stick reader, and that's assigned to those eIDs, and the True Test gear arranges that all for us. And then that's Peter's preg scan data that comes straight off his thing. We need to tidy that up a bit as well and change that file. But once they're all loaded into either of the indicator, either of the devices, and then we can download just a live data, which comes out looking like that, and there's quite a few more columns than that which won't fit on. So I've sort of been able to do all that myself over just a lot of trial and error over a number of years, and plenty of mistakes and problems and phone calls to people. Yeah, once you get that whole life data on a spreadsheet like that, that's when you can really start to zone in on your numbers. And once you learn how to do a few things and apply some filters to that, you can filter back how many sheep you've got in different mobs, age groups, different how many twins you got, singles, dries, everything. So in seconds. So that's been a big changer to us in identifying a few issues that we've had within our flock and removing those animals.
So you've touched on it, Darren. How else are you using that data in your business?
I guess the main advantage we've had in the last few years with it, we've had some reproductive issues, some poorer scanning percentages in our ewes for a number of years. So as part of trying to find the issues, the causes and issues, and rectify that problem, we hired a consultant to help with that. And then just looking back, I knew I had some files somewhere on my computer of the preg data from a few years earlier which we hadn't really looked at. So then all of a sudden we had all this data available that we're able to put it all together, and had like sort of 4 years worth of pretty solid numbers that we could work on. And then you could follow the story of some animals through, pick out the poor performers that possibly should have been culled at nearly a date. And we have had a bit of a tidy up there, and also it's helped us identify the issues which are causing our problems. So that's probably the main thing, but just, yeah, basic record keeping and just keeping track of your mobs and basic management of knowing how many scanned twins and how many things are in each mob and different things, that it's all at your fingertips there and very quick and easy to find. So that's good.
Darren, any data you might look to collect in the future?
Yes, we'll sort of keep it reasonably simple, but yeah, probably some weaning weights on ewe lambs, like our replacement breeding ewe lambs, and a few weights of those more through their growing season to identify the fast growing animals. And as now we hadn't been tagging weather lambs, but obviously we will be from now on. So yeah, to track their growth rates and stuff through the spring as they're growing will be quite interesting. And we don't, but if anyone that buys in store lambs or feedlot lambs, to track the weights of those, I think would be pretty helpful to identify the producers that you're buying them from, the better from the slower growers. And then yeah, possibly what fleece weights of hoggets at the first at their second shearing. So that's some of the things we might look at into the future. Yeah.
Excellent. That'll be great to look at this afternoon. And Darren, just finally, any tips for other farmers thinking about?
Yeah, I've got a few written down here. Just start collecting data now. Like it's when you have a young animal that has no data when you apply the tag. So as the years go by, you build up a bit of a database on that. So the sooner you start doing it, the sooner you've got something to work with. And if you do invest in some tag reading equipment and whatever to make it worthwhile, I think probably tag some older age groups of ewes. So you've got a bigger group of ewes to work with that you can make use of your equipment. And yes, you don't necessarily need to have a auto drafter to do any of this gear. We do a lot of drafting and separating of sheep just in a drenching race where you just scan them with your stick reader, mark them with a rattle, and we have drafting gates at the end of the race, and just draft off the few that you need to take out as you go. And you could be doing that while you're drenching or doing some other job, so that works pretty efficiently without any great capital outlay. And last of all seek help from people that know, and ask other people that have been doing it, or consultants or someone that can steer you in the right direction, and you might avoid some of the issues in the yards which we've had from time to time when you kind of want to just get your job done and go home.
Thanks, Darren. That's great advice. And we've got all the manufacturers out here. So if you've got some questions or issues, certainly hit them up during lunchtime about anything that you might have issues with. Would you join me in thanking Darren for sharing his experiences?
Thank you.
Thanks, Darren, for sharing your experience with the implementation of eID. This case study was made possible through funding from Australian Wool Innovation, the Department of Primary Industries and Regions, and the South Australian Sheep Industry Fund.